Well, thank you so much for being here with a warm welcome, and thank you to the people who are in the next room and the next room. You guys are like the early birds. We can actually smell each other. In the next room, they have to imagine the scent. But don't worry, I'm going to come over there too and say hello to you all, because that's what this campaign's about. This campaign's about humanity. I hadn't seen Billy in a little while, but let's give him and the other speaker a round of applause for the work that they do. I'm a parent, and when I hear about one of my kids is autistic, when I hear about children who are born who are differently abled, like it touches me in like a very, very personal way. I have to say that my family's taught me so much over this last number of months and years, and I would not be running president today if not for the lessons that I learned at home and from my wife and from my kids. So, you all know a little bit about me. I'm not a politician, you probably have gathered that. Some of you really like that too. Yeah, politicians too. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. You heard a little bit about my work from Billy, and I was working for the last 6.5 years helping create thousands of jobs around the country as the CEO of Venture for America. And I was getting medals and awards and accolades. I was invited to the Obama White House, or as I refer to it, the good White House. And I got to go, I got to bring my wife, meet the president several times. How many of you all like documentaries? How many of you have access to a Netflix password? Yeah, so there's a documentary about Venture for America where a bunch of Billy's friends are in Detroit trying to create businesses. Venture for America helped create several thousand jobs around the country in 18 cities. And so in addition to being awarded various accolades to the White House, there's also a movie made about us on Netflix. So I have this IMDb credit as myself. And so all of this great work being done, getting all these accolades, and then Donald Trump wins the election in 2016. And to me, that was like a giant, stop what you're doing and dig into what the heck just happened. And there are a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump for many, many different reasons. And I would say that I think our media has done us a disservice by overly simplifying why Donald Trump is our president today. So according to the media, why is he our president? Why did he win? What are the reasons? Go ahead and shout out why you think the media is up. 1, racism. 2, Russia. Ignorance, I think that might make sense. I'd say Facebook might be number 4.
Name recognition.
FBI is number 5. So those are the reasons why everyone says Donald Trump is our president. It has people focusing on this set of issues. But when I dug into the numbers, I found a different conclusion. The reason why Donald Trump is our president today is that we automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs in Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Missouri, Iowa, and many right here in Illinois. There's a straight line up between the adoption of industrial automation in a voting district and the movement toward Trump. It's like the strongest relationship you can find in the data, in the numbers. So you see, we did 4 million manufacturing jobs, and if you go to those communities, they're hurting. There have not been these massive new industries that have arisen in these communities. And my friends, how many of y'all work in technology? Now, so if you work in technology and you have friends like my friends in Silicon Valley and around the country know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and on through the economy. How many of you all have noticed stores closing around where you live? And why are those stores closing? Amazon, that's right. Amazon's like a vacuum that's sucking up $20 billion in commerce every year. And as a result, now 30% of American malls and Main Street stores are set to close in the next 4 years. What do you think is the most common job in the United States? Retail, that's right. The average retail worker is a 39-year-old woman making between $10 and $11 an hour. And we know that she does not have a ton in savings. So what is her opportunity going to be when the mall closes or the Main Street store closes? Learn to code is what? That's rough. And how much did Amazon pay in taxes in 2018? Zero. That's right. That's less than you all paid. And I would submit to you all that there's something messed up if $1 trillion company pays less in federal taxes than you do, than we do. That's also math, am I right? And I'm going to suggest that it's not their fault. Like, it's Amazon's job to try and pay as little tax as possible and high-five the accountants, being like, yeah, another year of zero taxes, we did it, guys, here's a bonus. That's their job. It's our job to make sure they can't do it. So do our job and set up a system that makes sure that Amazon pays its fair share in taxes, even as it's sucking vitality out of main streets around the country. How many of you all saw the Google AI demo where there's AI software that can answer the phones and make appointments for people? You guys see that? No, and no, I know when you call a company right now, when you get the bot, you're like, human, 0, 0, human. You know, you're trying to get away from that bot as fast as possible. And then you get that human, you're like, oh, thank goodness. And then you're like, oh, you're going to answer my question. Now, in 2 or 3 years, the bot and the human are going to be indistinguishable. Where like you're going to call and you're going to get the bot, it's going to be like, hey, how are you doing? And be like, oh, you know, can you help me? And then it'll resolve your inquiries pretty quickly. Now, there are 2.5 million call center workers in the United States who make about $14 an hour right now. What do you all think the time frame is between when AI can outdo the call center workers and now? How long do you think that period of time is?
11 years.
2 years, 4 years, 5 years. I would say it's between 2 and 4 years. Some people say right now. Some people think it's technically feasible right now. So we're going to see a progression where before we're like, say, human, and then it'll be like, oh, that was actually a pretty pleasant interaction, and then the bots are going to catch up very, very quickly. And you don't need to have artificial general intelligence for that job. All you need is like a really good decision tree, making the micro spot decisions, and let's call it hundreds of voice prompts. They could actually have a human voice that they just map the interactions to. Now, I talk about truck driving a lot, and there's a message aside from that there's an Asian guy running for president who wants to give everyone $1,000 a month. Which is true, all those things are true. But then the other thing is that we should be concerned about the truck drivers, and we should be concerned about the truck drivers. Good, a lot of truck driver lovers here in Chicago, that's what I'm talking about. Because truck driving is the most common job in 29 states in this country, including Illinois. There are 3.5 million truck drivers in the United States of America. 94% men, average age 49. They're making about $50,000 a year right now. It's actually one of the more solid paying jobs for many, many blue collar workers. So what is now, my friends in Silicon Valley, some of you know these people too, are working on trucks that can drive themselves. And they're working on trucks that can drive themselves because of the money. $168 billion in financial incentives to automate truck driving. Now, what's the financial incentive to try and improve the lives and the livelihoods of the 3.5 million truck drivers?
Nothing.
Nothing. So you have $168 billion on one side and zero on the other. And so if you have intelligent venture capitalists being like, ooh, I can make progress on this problem, they'll throw hundreds of millions, billions of dollars, and they'll employ hundreds of the smartest engineers in the country trying to solve this problem. And the people in Silicon Valley tell me that they are 5 to 10 years away from the robot trucks hitting our highways. They were actually testing robot trucks here in Illinois just last month. I don't know if you guys noticed that. Like Amazon had some robot trucks going. They were a little bit like down low about it. But then the story broke out. It's like, yeah, there are Amazon trucks already crisscrossing the highways here in Illinois. So let's say it's 5 to 10 years from now. Recently, dozens of truckers protested in Indianapolis because, well, they did what's called a slow roll. So imagine like a dozen truckers just going slowly, gumming up traffic on a highway. This happened a month ago. They decided to go 40, 45 miles an hour, just gum up traffic. Now, what upset the truckers so much that they did this? They were protesting the electronic monitoring of their driving time. Because right now they're constrained to 14 hours and they have to turn the truck off and go to sleep. How do you think they're going to respond when it's their jobs at stake? I would suggest it's going to be a lot worse than the slow roll when you're looking at 10-0. And only 13% of truck drivers are unionized. It's very difficult to even have some grand negotiation. So this is what's coming down the pike in the next 5 to 10 years. We're in the third inning of the greatest economic and technological transformation in the history of our country. They're calling it the fourth industrial revolution. So I got my arms around this data in 2017 after Trump won. I was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? It is not immigrants that are causing these economic dislocations. It is the fact that technology is now pushing our economy to a point where more and more Americans are going to struggle to find paths forward. So I took these lessons, this data, these numbers, to good folks in Washington, D.C. I said, and I'm a pretty cool guy, so I can meet with pretty important people. I was like, hey guys, what are we going to do about these unrest that led to Donald Trump's election? And what do you all think the folks in Washington, D.C. said to me when I came and asked them this question?
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing, laughter. The answers I got were literally, number one, we cannot talk about that.
Wow.
Number two, we should study that. And then number three, the most popular was educate and retrain Americans for the jobs of the future. And then I said, that sounds really responsible, but I looked at the numbers. You all want to guess what the success rate was for government-funded training programs for the Yes, this man's part of the Yang Gang, 0 to 15%, that's right. We're terrible at retraining. And so when I said, hey, we're terrible at retraining to the folks in DC, they said, well, I guess we'll get better at it. And one person in Washington, D.C. said something to me that has stuck with me every day since then. He said to me, and I'm so glad I had someone with me so we can verify this went down. He said, Andrew, you're in the wrong town. Washington, D.C. is a town of followers, not leaders. No one you're describing. And he said to me, the only way that we will do anything about this set of problems is if you create a wave in other parts of the country and then bring it crashing down on our heads. And that's why I'm here with you tonight, people of Chicago. I heard that and I said, challenge fucking accepted. So this was 2017. I said, all right, let's do this thing. I'm going to run for president. We're going to create this wave. We're going to bring it back to DC, and we're going to force them to wake up. Now, you heard a little bit about my policies. How the heck can you adjust a society that's going through, again, the greatest economic and technological transformation in the history of the country? Now, when you have a problem this big, you need big solutions, and it's too good to be true. Raise your hand if that was true. It's cool. Way until I dug into this idea's history. Thomas Paine was for this at the founding of the country. He called it the citizen's dividend. Martin Luther King championed this in 1967, the year before he was killed. He called it a guaranteed minimum income. Milton Friedman and 1,000 economists signed a study saying this would be tremendous for America. And it was so mainstream that it passed the U.S. House of Representatives twice. In 1971 under Richard Nixon, came this close to being law. And the only reason it did not pass was that Democrats in the Senate wanted an even higher income threshold. And I talked to someone who worked in Democratic politics at that time, and he said that was the biggest mistake we ever made. Because if they'd signed that deal, a family of 4 would be guaranteed the equivalent of $30,000 a year from every year until now. Think about how much that would have changed the course of history. It came this close to being law. And then 11 years later, it did become law in one state, where now everyone in that state gets between $1,000 and $2,000 a year, no questions asked. And what state is that? Alaska. And how do they fund it? Oil. And what is the oil of the 21st century? Technology. Marijuana. That's right. It's technology, it's AI, it's big data, it's self-driving cars and trucks. That is the oil of the 21st century. What they're doing for everyone in Alaska, we can do for everyone here in Chicago and everyone around the United States with technology money. They call it the oil check in Alaska. We're going to call this the tech check. And you're going to love it. Everyone in America is going to love it. We have to put the American people in position to actually benefit in a innovation. So who's going to win in an era of artificial intelligence and the rest of it? Who wins?
Human!
Jeff Bezos and Amazon, Facebook, and these companies are not going to pay much in the way of taxes, no matter how big they win. So the challenge is, right now, the value is going to get spirited up into the cloud, and we're all going to be looking around being like, where'd the money go? Where'd the money go? And that's what we have to prevent. We have to put ourselves in position to win with all of these incredible innovations that are coming down the pike. So my plan is to pass a new value-added tax that would get the value from those innovations and bring it right here to the people of Chicago. Oh, you all look so good. So imagine a Chicago where everyone was getting another $1,000 a month. Where does yeah, no, it's great. It's great. We can make it happen together. Where does that money go? What would you spend it on? You spend it on student loans, healthcare bills, rent, food, tutoring for your kids, car repairs you've been putting off, a lot of the things you're spending it on right now. Because right now we're in a country where 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, 57% can't afford an unexpected $500 bill. So you know if you put $1,000 a month into Americans' hands, a lot of it's just going to go right back into the local economy. A little of it's going to float up to Jeff Bezos and the gang. You know, you'll buy an extra toaster or something. But most of it will stay right here in Chicago, and then the businesses here in Chicago are going to end up having to hire an extra tutor, server, mechanic, and on throughout the economy. How many of you all might be more likely to start a business if you were at $1,000 a month? This will be the greatest catalyst to entrepreneurship, creativity, the arts, and culture we have ever seen. We can build an economy around ourselves. We can make it work for us, instead of seeing ourselves as just economic inputs into this giant machine. Now, the Democratic Party wants to be the party of female empowerment, and I'm going to submit to you all that there's nothing better we could do for women than to put $1,000 a month into everyone's hands, because we know that there are thousands of women here in Chicago and millions around the country that are stuck in exploitative or abusive jobs or relationships because they can't improve their situations. And how many of those situations would be improved if those women were getting $1,000 a month that could make We can talk about women's rights, so we can do something about it. Am I right, Chicago? Let's do something about it. But we can't stop at the freedom dividend. We have to get health care off of your backs, off of our backs. Because right now we are stuck in the worst of all situations, where we're spending twice as much as other countries to worse results, and whenever we get scared, we're more nervous and anxious about navigating our crazy healthcare system and paying for treatment than we are actually getting well. And it does not need to be like this. As a CEO and business person, I tell people all the time, our messed up healthcare system makes it harder to hire people. When you hire them, it makes you want to treat them like a contractor or gig worker, so you don't have to give them health care. It makes it harder to change jobs, it makes it harder to start a company. Our healthcare systems right now is seizing up our economy. And the biggest confusion is when people are like, how are you going to pay for it? Anyone who asks that question has not looked at the numbers. Because the numbers. Oh, I love my people. I just say the word numbers and people hold up math signs. That's right. Make it think harder. That's right. So we're spending 18% of GDP, and if you have a robust public option, it's going to get the prices down and the access up very, very quickly. We're going to save money, not spend it. So that's Medicare for all. And then for the third thing, I like to talk about my wife again, who's at home with our 2 kids. How much does her work count in GDP? 0. How much does the market value her work at? 0. And we know that's messed up. We know that the work she's doing is some of the most vital and challenging and important work that anyone can do. How many of you all get excited about GDP when you wake up in the morning? You're like, oh, I'm going to make a big contribution today. I can feel it. So what we have to do is we have to shift, because GDP is going to run us off a cliff. Self-driving trucks are going to be great for GDP, and self-driving trucks are going to be terrible for many, many Americans. And raise your hand if you work in business. You know if you have the wrong measurements, then you're sunk. Like you're just going to keep driving your organization towards those measurements. The inventor of GDP, we made up GDP almost 100 years ago. A guy named Simon Kuznets, who was during the Great Depression. And he said 3 things. He said, number 1, this is a terrible measurement of national well-being, and we should not use it as that. Number 2, we should include parenthood and motherhood in the number because it's so important. And number 3, we should not include national defense spending because it shouldn't be considered economic value. Now, of course, we ignored all of that. Now we're like worshiping this GDP number as it drives us off a cliff. Instead of GDP, what should we be measuring? What would get you excited in the morning? This is going to say a lot about you. So median income and affordability, I get excited about that. Doing what you love, so you can say levels of engagement with work. How many Americans like their jobs right now? Yeah. Some of you do. The percentage is not what you want it to be. Mental health and freedom from substance abuse, how would that be as the thing? Yes, health and lifespan. That would be something to get excited about. And if you have that as a measurement, you would see that our lifespan, our life expectancy has declined for the last 3 years. And why is that? Why has our life expectancy started to decline?
Drugs overdoses.
8 Americans are dying of drug overdoses every hour now. And suicides have spiked to record levels, where both drug overdoses and suicides have overtaken vehicle deaths as leading causes of death in America for the first time in history. We are falling apart by the numbers. We are disintegrating. People are cheerleading this GDP number while our people are dying. Do you know it's aberrant for life expectancy to decline in a developed country even 1 year, let alone 3 years in a row? Do you all want to? Do you know when the last time America's life expectancy declined for 3 years in a row? The Spanish flu of 1918 that killed millions of people. We're back in Spanish flu territory. So if you have the right measurements, then you can say, holy cow, like things are heading in the wrong direction. We need to move very powerfully to right the ship. So as president, one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to go down the street to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, and I'm going to say, hey, GDP, really old, really dumb, doesn't help us at all. How about we update it to these new measurements around our health and mental health and clean air and water, am I right? And we measure things that actually matter to the American people, call it the new GDP or the American scorecard, and then I will present on the American scorecard every year at the State of the Union. I'll be the first president with a PowerPoint deck. How's that sound? That's right. We've got some meaningful goals and measurements to try and move towards instead of these bizarre theater performances we're subject to that I can't even watch anymore. It's like, you know, they're like these marionettes standing up to clap at particular moments. What the hell is this? So these moves that we can make as a country, and we can actually move much, much faster than anyone believes. The freedom dividend, Medicare for all, the new GDP, these are the moves that can help make the economy work for us. We can build a trickle-up economy from our people, our families, and our communities up. How's that sound to you all, Chicago? I came straight from your chair. I love you guys. I love you too, Andrew. Oh, thank you, man. So these are the true challenges of the 21st century that we need to try and address together. We have to get people focused on the real problems. Now, I've been running for president for a little while now. I have to say that we are taking off. Like, I'm a numbers guy, and all the measurements are heading hard up to the right. I recently qualified for the Democratic primary debate, so I cannot wait to introduce myself to the American people. You can all imagine people turning on the TV, and you know what they're going to say. They're going to say, "Who the hell is that guy?" And that's Andrew Yang, that's right. There's going to be a chyron. It's going to say Andrew Yang, entrepreneur. And then they're going to hear me talk, and they'll be like, "That dude made a lot of sense." He also seems to be speaking English. So these are some of the things that we have to look forward to in the days and weeks to come, thanks to you all. You all are what I know to be early adopters. I just want to give you all a shout out. Give yourselves a round of applause for being early adopters. Because this campaign is going so strong, it's just going up to the right. It's a beautiful thing when you know, like I've been a part of several growth stories in my career, and you kind of know when you hit that curve and it's just going to keep on growing. Because the word is spreading and it just starts to feed on itself, and that's where this campaign is. And the challenges ahead of us are vast. We are in the midst of an historic period of challenges that, you know, a lot of America, unfortunately, doesn't even recognize. And that's job one of this campaign, is to wake people up to the fact that it's not immigrants, it's technology. We have to start evolving. We have to start progressing in our notions of work and value. We have to start seeing ourselves as the centers of this economy instead of just cogs in the machine. Because if we allow ourselves to be cogs in the machine, we're going to lose. We're going to lose on a catastrophic, epic scale that's almost unimaginable. Because we are not going to be able to outdo artificial intelligence and software and self-driving cars and trucks. It doesn't matter if I'm smart and conscientious as a truck driver or a lazy slipshod truck driver, the robot truck's going to outdo us both. It doesn't matter if I'm the radiologist who spent 10, 12 years like in training and studied all these films. The AI can see shades of gray on the film I cannot see. You know, this is not going to be gentle or easy on us unless we wake up and evolve to this next level of our economy, what I'm calling human-centered capitalism. And yes. And that is your charge, people of Chicago. We need to spread this vision like wildfire to our fellow Americans as fast as possible. We do not have that much time. The goal is to win. We are not here to do anything but win. Am I right? And I know what it takes to win. I know we have the right stuff to win. I know I am the man to beat Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, I mean, he's our president today because he got a lot of the problems right. But his solutions are exactly the opposite of what we need. He says we need to build a wall, we need to turn the clock back, we need to try and bring back the jobs. And I'm saying we need to do the opposite. We need to turn the clock forward. We need to accelerate as fast as possible. We need to evolve in the way we see both work and ourselves and the value that should be ours in this society. And I'm the man for this job because the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math. I can feel it, but what we need you to do is we need you to reach out to just a couple of friends and say, hey, have you heard of this Andrew Yang guy? Here's a video. Here's the Joe Rogan interview. Here's the Breakfast Club interview. Whichever your favorite ones it is, just be like, just do me a favor and watch this, and then let's talk about it. But with your help, we can build this wave. This wave, I can see where we need to go, and we can get there, but we need everyone here to see the vision and then share it with at least a couple of friends and loved ones. Are you up for that, Chicago? Let's go away together. Let's make the economy that works for us, and let's take this all the way to the White House. Thank you. Nice to have you all. Oh my gosh, am I going to run to the next room now? Okay, I'm going to leave you with Zach. Yo, come on out, man. So guys, this is my campaign manager, Zach. He's going to say something while I